We opted to do a commentary with just two of us to have an opportunity to kind of talk about some of the details of making this movie, because the other commentary is just more kind of chaos, really. So we figured we'd take the time to actually talk about some of these things and about what it took to get this movie made.
A little enlightenment on why you shouldn't do it yourself.
Basically.
This is Vancouver. We did second unit. We shot this about 2 months after we did main unit on the film. We flew back to Vancouver and went to a little park with our DP and a small crew and shot trees.
And this is a Steadicam. We actually have a lot of Steadicam in this, which we'll explain later. But
Mark Cohen, our associate producer, pretty much one of the main facilitators who got us going in Vancouver, was very helpful. He got us a Steadicam, and that's my mother. Mom Ingram.
Supposed to be.
This is one of like 3 sets. This was built. It was very exciting. We felt like real filmmakers when we walked into our welfare set. There's the 5: Jason Lee, Martin Brooks, Renée Humphrey, Jason Mewes, and Carmen Llewellyn in the welfare office.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
Donna is sad. Donna's just like, why these jerks? I hate them. The way we felt.
What were there any other sets in Vancouver? Because I know we had the sets off on the road, like the store.
Well, no, we had the main set, and this song here is "When I Have Money" by. They did a couple. We had a couple of songs used for this by a great band named Deja Voodoo from Montreal. It was a pretty cool band in the '80s that we were all kind of fans of, and they were really cool enough to let us use this music.
We all lived together for about a year. Seems like a month.
And.
Here's our murky, bizarre credits with the glowing ring.
Which I love, actually. It's, it's kind of, it's dank. Like our film, it's dank. I guess now we could talk about our cast, I guess, and how we were lucky enough to secure such a...
What an excellent idea.
Basically, Malcolm Ingram was on the set of Mallrats while they were shooting that, and that's where Kevin said I could have the loot to make it, and I was really friendly with Jason Lee and Carmen, who was there with Jason, and Mewes and that, and it was just kind of like they were like, hey, if you get your film made, we'd love to be in it. They were very generous, and I don't know if they ever thought that I was going to call them on it. And I actually did. And they were all gracious enough to come up to Vancouver and make our little opus. And the Martin Brooks is the one name that nobody pretty much... he's the unknown person in the cast. He was a really good friend of myself and Matt's from high school. And we just we thought it'd be kind of interesting to have him involved. Bob Miller. Boo, hate Bob Miller. I don't mind saying that. Bob, if you're listening to this, fuck you. Mark Cohen, though, on the other hand, is a lovely man.
A god.
Huge facility. Yes, a god. Wow. Yay. Kevin and Scott. They kind of helped us all put together. There's Martin. But Bob Miller, fuck you, Bob Miller. And that's us. Fuck you, Bob Miller.
And fuck you, Malcolm.
Hey, I'm right here.
So this is going to be the outside of the warehouse here. We had
this was the last shot that we filmed. Actually, it was a sad day. This is the last.
Really?
Yeah, this is the last day. Jason Lee left. Like, remember he left like right after the shot was done. He had to fly out.
Oh right.
And then we went inside and filmed Carmen.
Right.
And them saying goodbye. The last scene we filmed with the cast was. We'll say that at the end. And there is Matt's old girlfriend, Martin's sister. There with Kristen Mosier, Scott Mosier's sister. So that was a little family kind of there.
Yeah, we employed a buddy system here with the casting. Because obviously there wasn't a lot of money divvied out for the acting parts, or for anything else for that matter.
Well, unless SAG is listening to this, then
we paid union. Yes, we did.
Paid union.
Yes, and adhered to all of the regulations.
Mm-hmm. Because that's the kind of guys we are.
That's right. And this is the warehouse where everyone lived, and we shot pretty much all the indoor scenes. Mm-hmm. It was a complete dump, and was fixed up and basically built into something people could live in by a cat by the name of Jeff McCauley.
Jeff McCauley, another god. We had a lot of godsends in this film. Jeff McCauley, totally. There's a cameo.
Oh dear!
By the directors, right there.
Yeah, a disgraceful moment.
Yeah, very much so. I was thinner then, though.
Yeah, we're much fitter now.
And the most embarrassing thing about this, of course, is my shorts match. It's just like, I don't want to get into that.
It was a 2-piece sleeping set for Zellers, and
we just put on after we rolled out of bed. We just put on the first thing we found,
which makes it sound like we were in bed together.
That was intentional. Can't explain that for the next 15 minutes. This is a great cameo. This my brother Steve. This is his favorite scene. He's like, that movie sucked. That guy is fucking awesome. Like when he watched the film for the first and I'm sure only time, he was like, that guy's amazing. The rest of the movie he hated it. The guy in the background that you see right there, who's got kind of looks Sasquatch. He's kind of foreshadowing to Sasquatch. Is actually Reg Harkema, who actually edited our next film, Taillights Fade. We didn't even know him at this time. He just happened to be in the film, and he also he edited a couple of Canadian classics like Hardcore Logo and Last Night. He's a fantastic man, and
and at the time he was roommates with our
DP
Brian Pearson, which is how he came upon the set.
Joey Lauren Adams, who was good enough. She was dating Kevin at the time. And she was good enough to come up to Vancouver to shoot this for us, and she wanted to be named by her stage name, Lauren Lyle, which we did for her. And this whole scene was actually written as kind of a punchline against a friend of mine, John Knowles, who's a bassist, and there you go.
Yeah, that's right. Bass player mockery.
Yeah,
there's not enough of that in the world.
No.
And there's Jeff McCauley banging his head right there.
Next to Kevin. And there's Kevin. Silent Bob, his only appearance outside of Miramax movies.
Of course, technically, you could say that this was sort of a Miramax movie when it was made.
Not
too.
Really. There's Ethan Suplee, who's good friends with Carmen and Jason, and who was visiting. Me and Matt actually wrote this scene in a Burger King. Like 5 minutes before we shot it.
On Burger King napkins, actually, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And we were kind of both timid of whether Ethan would be mad at us about a fat joke, but he was very cool about it.
Hey, Ethan. Yeah.
This is
in the background there is Marin, who was who worked on the film. The movie is just full of people who worked on the film.
Basically, if you're on crew and we needed extras, you just get stuffed in the background of a scene. Usually.
That is Marin, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's all kinds of cast back there. I think it's all cast, or crew, back there. And that's actually the living room that everyone used as a living room in the warehouse.
Too, right there.
Because the other living room was like a hot set, so the only person who actually ruined the hot set was Malcolm because he insisted on sleeping all over it.
Every night, my bedroom was the hot set. And there is Lisa Zimmerman, Paul Zimmerman's wife. You guys don't know Paul Zimmerman. Paul Zimmerman used to be editor of Film Threat magazine. And that was his wife, who came up just to film this. And that's actually Marin again in a wig. In the left. This is so boring.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Hey, wow.
Basically, it's just when we did this party scene, we're just moving around different parts of the warehouse and making these really weak little pathetic sets and stuff to try to create a different look.
And there's Chris again. Chris Pastras.
A scene which is really painful for us to watch now at this point.
Yeah, the Scooby-Doo thing. When we wrote this, I hadn't even seen Slacker yet. I didn't know how the cultural references, and we wrote this before Clerks and all that stuff, and the pop culture references were just beginning. There's Mewes, there's a woman right there on the right. The pop references weren't as prevalent as they are now, so...
we beg a little forgiveness on the Scooby-Doo references.
Although
basically.
I'm sure we'll get none. Look, lone girls.
I think we used that because we were desperate to cut out of the scene.
DP Brian Pearson. Yeah, we just made this scene shorter because it was something. I don't know. It was killing us. Did we make it shorter? We didn't make it shorter.
I think we did.
Really.
Yeah. Well, we cut everything down quite radically, and this party went on for about a half hour in the damn script.
Wandering around castles on her
And it's funny because we have all these posts. I mean, we shouldn't be mentioning this, I guess, but we have all these posters throughout the thing, which I did all this kind of set decking myself, which was kind of insane because we just didn't really have the rights to any of this stuff. But it's all over the place.
Well, set deck was a total disaster because we had someone come in and help us with that. But when I think we were like 2 days before going to...
No, it was the night that we were shooting the next day.
And the set was finished, and when we walked in to have a look at it, because we were off doing location scouting or something, and, well, I mean...
It was horrible. So it looked like a college dorm instead of kind of like where these slobs would live. So we went out the night before we shot and totally bought all of the stuff
At Value Village.
At Value Village. Who got a very good thank you in this.
Ben, sweetheart, thanks for coming so quick. So, Ben, my hero, what have you got?
Some excellent Nigerian. Pick of the crop.
Excellent. How much?
Well, it is a seller's market. I'm going to have to go 120.
Ben, you're the man.
Yo, what's up?
So, Ben, what are your feelings on spotting?
Spotting? Doesn't that mean kind of like I came all the way across town and now you're trying to bone me? Now what next? An IOU?
Ben. I was just fucking with you. What's the damage?
120, please.
And some cash will suffice?
Certainly.
Cassidy, what do you... Here's the cash now. Where's the stash?
Tasty.
Get up. You want to stay and get high?
I'd love to, but duty calls. Day after welfare is like fucking Christmas. I'm out of here. 2 more deals, and I can take a month off.
Hey, weed. I've got $230 left. Can't believe I spent $300 on nothing.
Oh, Jake. You'll always have the memories. But then again, do you even remember anything from last night? Nudie boy. Shut up, Cassidy. Oh, Meg has a go hump. Has a go hump.
Anybody have any ideas for money?
Fuck it, I'm gonna call my parents.
Fuck that, no way. Come on, I'd rather throw one of those pathetic pay my rent please parties and call my folks. Why don't we?
Come on, is that the best we can do?
Yeah, Meg, that's pretty sad. How do you suggest we pay for the kegs?
You know, 3 kegs will barely feed the amount of people you need to show up.
Who fucking cares? Once they pay, we've got all their cash.
Oh, yeah. And of course, all those angry bastards in your place half drunk and demanding their money back. That doesn't intimidate you in the slightest.
Would you two just shut the fuck up? Look, Jake, you're gonna get all your money back, even if I have to sell my ass on Davie Street.
Hey, Donner, it's cool.
Come on.
I'll up in a minute, I just gotta piss.
I'm just gonna go sit for a sec. Let's bring him in later. See, you've been real busy. Give me some of that.
Get your robe.
All right. Oh, this don't smell bad.
Can I get some of that?
Of course. Consider you paid for it. Ah! Fuck, you made him drop it in the couch!
fucking morons. You just couldn't help, could you? You lazy fucks. I give up.
Oz, why the fuck didn't you help him? Me? Me, you fucking ass. I didn't see you doing shit either. I was taking a piss. More like having a wank.
Sometimes I just lose it. I know it's pathetic He-Man shit, and I try to control it. I really do. Oh, fuck.
Where are the cakes?
Oh, fuck!
Oh, fuck.
Van was left open. Somebody must have snagged him.
Do you mean that the ability to throw a simple fucking party is beyond our grasp? Pathetic! Hey, baby. You see the $6 million man?
This is probably one of my favorite scenes in the film. I think this is kind of like this is one scene that actually really turned out exactly the way I think we saw it in our heads, and very, very happy about how it turned out.
Well, one of the very few, because we had very little film. I mean, our shot ratio was about 4-1 on this thing, and the film that we did have, we got for free. So we had to be pretty picky, and that's why there's so many masters and stuff. But this was such an important scene that we actually took the time to do a lot of setups and stuff, and fortunately it paid off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you could be the judge whether it pays off or not. But
well, we didn't get that.
If you don't like it, go fuck yourself. We got your money.
I'm gonna go to bed now, so if you need anything.
Luscious women on the production. It was we had a lot of women.
Yeah, it was quite nice actually in that regard.
It's nice to
when you're living in squalor and your only bathroom light is actually a candle and stuff like that. It's nice to at least have some beautiful young women around. Tend to cheer you up.
And they really did do a good job of cheering us up. And here's a shot that Jason Lee always hates this scene because he blinks. You'll see, there he goes. He blinks. He didn't want to blink, and the one shot that works best with this, the appearance of Bigfoot, he blinked, so we had to go for the blink. And the song here playing is "Cause Insanity" by a band called No Mind. And from the inception of this scene, this was the song that we wanted to use, and we were lucky enough to do it. They're a really cool punk band from the '80s in Toronto.
I suppose this might be a good time to talk about how the whole idea of having Bigfoot, someone go after Bigfoot, came about.
It's funny, the kind of the idea of us doing a movie. One day I literally was walking to the library, because that's what I did when I was unemployed, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, and I would kind of walk to the library, and on my way to the library I would pass Matt's house. So one day I kind of rang his doorbell and said, "Matt, let's do first we're going to do a play." I was like, "Matt, let's do a play." And I wanted to do a play version of Beyond the Belly of the Dolls by Russ Meyer, and then we kind of thought, why don't we do an original? So we'd sit in Matt's backyard and drink beer and toss out ideas. And the original idea was
that the principal character would be visited by the ghost of Howie Morenz, who was Howie Morenz was a hockey player for the Montreal Canadiens through the, I guess, late 20s and early 30s, who died from an injury in a hockey game. But he was like known as the Babe Ruth of hockey, and he's kind of a forgotten icon. And so originally it was going to be Howie Morenz that came to visit this guy. But needless to say, eventually it changed to Bigfoot, which I think was a real blessing.
Bigfoot worked for us. Well, it didn't work enough, really. We would be a lot richer if it worked the way it could have. And there's the set in its full glory.
Cassie, it'll be an experience.
Do you still have that 8-track player?
I do. I still have that 8-track player.
Hello. What have you done with my daughter?
Knock it off. What's wrong with you guys? We're fucked.
La 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 la. Distracted watching the film.
Yeah.
The cake party we were planning was a bust.
It's funny. There's a whole segment that was cut out. It actually went. It was about 10 minutes longer, leading up to the seeing of Bigfoot, and me and Matt really liked it. Actually, I think our whole thing with this movie was we were very into creating a stagnation kind of feeling. It was actually really it was intentional, kind of like it was long masters, and it was very, very
Stilted.
very stilted. But the problem is that I mean, you know, it's great on paper and it's great when you talk about it, but people actually have to watch it. And I think that, you know, it really tested people, you know, just to try and create it. And I think we succeeded too well in the fact that people just like it would kill people, just like you know, because these are just people who are completely stagnating.
Right, right. And as a result, the pacing in the first act was atrocious. And but the thing that got cut out, which was unfortunate, as a result of that, was that there was this whole keg party that they tried to throw to raise money for their rent, and because they're so incompetent, they managed to screw that up as well. And I think it went a long way to sort of creating a better sense of what these characters are all about and why Donner is so frustrated when he finally actually gets this vision of Bigfoot. But unfortunately, it got the knife.
Yes, it did. I believe for $1,000 was the trade-off.
And that red van, like, we bought that thing for about $450.
And we got so much use of that thing. I mean, that was
our transportation for like 3-4 months while we were out there.
the most dangerous vehicle in the way. It kind of drove like a sailboat. You would guide it.
And then we get loaded up with camera equipment. It weighed about 14,000 tons, and you know, and just basically steer all over the road.
There's a phone call coming in. This time, this is just outside of British Columbia. We went back to this area actually. We did a movie called Taillights Fade, and we actually did the same kind of reveal. The Taillights Fade. Our following opus. Just some neat shots of the van. You know, a little cool traveling music. Coming up here is. Oh, we're coming. God, that shot goes on way too long. But it's nice, though. It's traveling. Okay, there is Bruce McDonald and a fellow named Twisty. Bruce McDonald was filming a great movie called Hardcore Logo at the time, and he was good enough to... we begged him to come out and film a cameo. He's not really known... Hardcore Logo was a movie that's released by Quentin Tarantino's company, Rolling Thunder, and there's Bruce giving the finger. Bruce in Canada is known as the King of the Road, and we thought it would be kind of funny to actually have kind of a tribute to him, like, you know, he's giving the finger to our little road trip, which I thought was kind of bittersweet. And there's you can't read that, but it says, think safely if you get lost today. Will anybody know? Are you prepared?
It's supposed to be ominous.
Love that shot, the flies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you mention the fact how badly we got hammered for how long that drive-by stuff is?
Yes, I talked about that. Yes. Actually, the title "Drawing Flies" does come from the Soundgarden song. Both myself and Matt were big fans of still are big fans of Soundgarden, and we thought of trying to get the song, and then we just thought, I mean, we have this really small movie, and to have a big song like that would just be ridiculous and a little.
No sense having a song that's worth more than your movie.
Yeah. And actually, you know, we fancied for a minute, and then Scott Mosier tongue lashed me. Oh, Donner. He's just sick of these kids already. Probably not unlike you are, the audience.
Who can blame him?
Coming up is a very controversial shot between us and our DP, who just said no. Like, we really did want to create this kind of stagnant feeling. I mean, we had this car propped on top of the van, wasn't it? It was on top
of the camera truck.
Top of the camera truck, and basically we rigged some. There's a very slow dolly move going on there, and I mean, we really wanted to do as many masters as possible. And our DP, I mean, probably very wisely said, no, there's no way, I won't shoot this in a master. And we said, but we're the directors, and you have to. And he said, okay, damn you.
The shitty thing is when you're in a situation like this is, I mean, we just did not have the time or film to do anything else in a lot of these situations. So you have to make compromises, whether you know they're bad ideas or not. And in this situation, when you got 5 people at night,
it's like we shot this like 3 a.m. Yeah. We've been shooting like since like 8 a.m. You know, it's just incredible. Like the crew, we had a crew of about 30 people, and they everybody worked for free. And they just did such a fantastic job, and they were really, I mean, the most embarrassing thing is because myself and Matt had insanely hard days, and sometimes, of course, when we came home, we couldn't go right to bed. So we'd sometimes be the last guys to set, which was, I apologize to everybody now. Just come rolling up.
Yeah,
Hello.
we're guilty. The porno van. No, we don't need to touch this one.
Kevin already touched the.
He touched it all kinds.
But actually, this is Kevin's favorite scene in the film. Mewes' delivery of. I like the van. We could play tapes, and it was really funny. It was really handy because a big when we were editing the film on a Steenbeck, this was a great kind of reference point because Mewes taps the van, and that was always a sync mark to see if we were in sync. If he was hitting the van with the.
God knows we got out of sync plenty of times on that old Steenbeck.
Frankly, we got out of sync the second we thought of this movie, and we just haven't got back in sync since. But I like Carmen. She's
Lock up a dickhead. Fuck you, asshole.
I'm trying to remember where this was all shot, man, because this was all.
This
done
was
the same
shot
area.
in the farm. There was cow shit all over the fucking place. Horse shit and cow shit all over it. This is shot the same scene where the babies were shot and everything. It was that field.
The problem is we couldn't really get permits or get any decent parks. So most of the time, our idea of like being out in the wilderness was actually just like a field or something.
Lisa Cohen,
a mile from the road.
Lisa Cohen was a goddess in what she kind of got for us. Now this was a great location. It was actually it's been used a couple of times in films.
The Capilano
Suspension Bridge, indeed. And it's so funny because everybody's horrified on this bridge.
Yeah.
Like Martin, especially the fellow on the right, and the OTHS is the high school we went to. And
you can see how people are clutching onto the like Martin is particularly.
Renée, what a fucking brave woman.
But this thing is it's a cable bridge, and as you're walking on it, it rocks and starts to twist. And of course, because there's a steady cam and a whole crew backing up in front of them, the thing got quite a bit of momentum. But you can see there actually now that it stopped. So it's kind of freaky.
Yeah.
And we were in such a rush to get this scene because we were supposed to have about 2 hours to shoot on the bridge, and when we got there, they basically said you have 15 minutes to get this, and then we're firing up the
lawnmowers.
The lawnmowers. So it was this mad panic to get this scene, and so we had everyone running up and down the bridge for each take, like running back to the start point again and doing it again as fast as possible.
And also for about 5 days of shooting, we were shooting stuff on the other side of that bridge, so we would have to lug all of our gear every day back and forth across that bridge.
Well, by we mean the poor unfortunate souls who did most of that work.
We lugged some gear.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there was other people who suffered the grips and such. It was pretty rough going for them.
Dan Floyd.
I know Jeff McCulley wanted to kill me. He was our key grip as well as helping us by building all those
Jeff
sets.
McCulley was a god, essentially. We had, as I said, we had many gods.
Which was actually kind of cool because one of the things I really noticed when we did this movie was that in Vancouver there's a lot of people who want to make films and they understand what it takes to make films.
Unlike Toronto.
So they bend over backwards to do the little things to get movies made. Everyone's willing. I mean, all the the labs and all that kind of stuff, cut deals. Everybody does a lot to pitch in. And it's really nice, actually, that there's a real film community there, and you don't see that too many places like Toronto. You definitely don't see that.
Toronto film community sucks. But Vancouver's really nice. It is a true community. It's the moon.
It's supposed to be the moon. Funny looking thing. Back to business.
Little.
Is this the Dead Cats playing?
Yes, this is the Dead Cats playing, and we used a couple of their songs. And there's Bigfoot. Originally, this scene was gonna be done nude. And Jason Lee was going to do it, actually. He was game to do it, the nude, wasn't he? And we gave him a break, and I think we just thought boxes would just be fine. Now, with his takeoff in his career, it might have been,
This lake is actually pretty nice. Looked a little creepy last night.
This scene I don't think is in sync. Because
it never seems.
It's never in sync. Because I think we lost the sound for part. Like, essentially, the sound got all screwed up, and essentially, it's not completely in sync. But this is just another location that we're lucky enough. I mean, we were very, very lucky to. Nobody was working for money. I mean, the money we had We initially had a $40,000 budget that was originally given to us by Miramax. Kevin was redoing his deal with Chasing Amy, and he kind of snuck us in, and Vince's Film A Better Place in. So we're given $40,000 to do it, and that's how we got our money. The money, and then the rest of the money we basically did all kinds of check scams.
Yeah, credit card scams, personal loans, just about everything that you need to do in this situation.
We ended up wasting, not wasting, but we're spending so much money that Matt had to go underground after the making of this film. How long did you go underground for?
Well, I don't know. I guess, I moved to the States for some time because I had so many creditors looking for me. But
there you go, kids, the glamorous world of filmmaking.
Fortunately, those days are sort of behind me now.
Now we both just live in our parents' houses.
But one of the tough things about when we were doing this is even though we had the $40,000, there were delays when the money was supposed to be coming in, and that's one of the things that really killed us because there was, I think, 2 or 3 occasions during the actual shooting of the film where checks were supposed to arrive and they didn't, and we were left basically without even money to feed the crew on a shooting day. And that's again where the Coens, Mark and Lisa Coen, were really helpful. They actually threw money in. They put money in. They made food. They did all sorts of things, and that's when I exhausted what was left of my resources with credit cards to basically keep the thing afloat because we were about one missed lunch away from a mutiny.
We actually met Mark Cohen. Actually, was friends with Scott Mosier from Vancouver, from Vancouver Film School days, and Lisa Cohen was his wife, and wonderful people.
And Mark was working on the X-Files at the time, so he couldn't be around during the week.
And it was really funny. One time we were doing location scouting, and we drive by a set, and for some reason I just decided to be very belligerent and yelled something out of a window at another. It was kind of my punk rock thing. Like we were this small little indie production. There was this big production going on, and I yelled at something nasty to the X-Files people, and Mark Cohen just kind of like saw the red van streaming off into the distance. I'm just like, oh, those boys.
This would be one of our shameful bounced checks.
This was to these people. These people. The husband was a total sweetheart. He husband and wife owned this little gas station place, and he took some. I mean, our story, of course, was we were Vancouver film students. We were just making a little student film. We're part right. That's my father, Malcolm Ingram Sr., wearing an Expos cap. But anyway, so he took pity on us, but the wife was absolutely furious at the fact that he'd done this, especially I'm sure when she saw that our crew was just helping themselves to all the goodies in the store.
Well, actually, they were buying lots of stuff. I mean, they were getting a lot of business out of the deal.
There was some stealing going on.
She was trying to gouge us because we were already there and ready to shoot. So she was asking for a whole pile of money to shoot, and we had no option to go anywhere else. So unfortunately, we had to write a bad check.
It's quite possible we could be responsible for those people's divorce.
Well, he's probably better off.
Drawing flies, killing dreams as well as relationships.
Don't ever touch my fucking map.
That should be the tagline.
Exactly. Hold the presses. He's really driving there. It's
yeah, none of this car mount business.
No. This was all some incredibly dangerous stuff we did. I mean, we didn't block off roads or anything. It was just like, go.
Well, we didn't obtain a permit for a single thing because the cost of permits alone would have been enough to turn us off that. But because of all the big shoots that go on in Vancouver, they want barrel loads of money to shoot out in the woods or do anything on a road. Then you got to have cops and all this other stuff. And it was like, well, okay, well, that's all well and good, but we can't afford any of that. So we would just sort of show up and go for it.
Well, because permits are for Nancy boys, really.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That's the answer for everything.
Have not been the same, right?
Nah, have not been the same as the song playing there. A great Canadian band named Slow. This was the first day of shooting right here.
Shit, this stuff is brutal. I don't want to leave the van here. It's gonna
Az loves his van.
And he really did love that van too, actually.
Yeah.
Middle of nowhere.
You can't see it in the black and white, but I think wasn't it you and Mewes that painted the everything? They put all that yellow paint on the van, like on the side mirrors.
I think it was Mewes decorated, I think.
Yeah.
Mewes and Martin.
On the hubcaps and stuff. It was just ghastly looking at this bright yellow, like trim-clad rust paint all over all the chrome.
We ended up selling that thing, didn't we? For like more than we bought it.
We abandoned it.
Did we?
Yeah.
What a sad.
And then I actually ended up giving it to a family. Lisa Cohen knew a family that needed a vehicle, and we gave it to them. So hopefully they fixed it up because it was a piece of shit.
I mean, and that family was killed, unfortunately, in a crash weeks later.
No, I'm fine.
That's not true.
I think somebody was living in it for a while actually. Because we left it on the street.
Did
for
we?
a long time, yeah. And then it was full of water. When I went back to Vancouver, it was like full of water and leaves, and there was all kinds of junk in it, like if someone had been living in it. It wasn't pretty.
The poor van.
This is in that same Capilano Park.
This is one of the areas where we had to ground all our equipment over that bridge that you saw earlier to shoot this.
And it was a colossal pain in the ass because in this park in particular, this is a tourist park. So there are like families and like German tourists with cameras and like kids.
5 feet from where we're shooting.
Yeah, kids running around and stuff. So anyone we had on crew we could pitch in, we were asking people to try to be quiet. But I mean, you'd hear like kids running around like, ah, la, 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 and all this kind of stuff. So if it wasn't for our sound being so crappy, you'd probably be able to hear tons of background noise all the time. Cars and trucks going by and all that kind of stuff. But it's the best we could do.
Damn it.
So what is he doing out there now?
It's a lovely little shot.
So while we're in the woods here for a while, because there isn't a lot to talk about set dressing or anything here, I want to talk about the warehouse a little bit that we lived in, which was in East Vancouver and was in a really scummy...
On a road called Industrial.
And it was basically a junkies and hookers kind of neighborhood. And
literally.
Like most of East Van, for that matter. But...
filthy hippies.
We rented this. It was a big 2-floor warehouse, and we used it obviously to house everybody. Ourselves and all of the cast lived in this thing, and we had most of our sets in there.
We sold everybody on the concept that it was going to be like Andy Warhol's factory.
Yeah, we called it Film Camp, I believe, at the time.
Yeah.
That seemed to get everyone enthused enough, and they did a really good job of tolerating the conditions, which were absolutely horrid. And
but the best part of Trickery is refer to it as Film Camp, and all of a sudden it seems a lot more kind of artistic and bohemian. It's like it's film camp.
That's right. And so you've got to tolerate the nuances of film camp.
Exactly.
But I think things hit an all-time low. We had a power tie-in called the Hollywood tie-in, which was illegal, which took power directly from the power box, so we could actually get enough power to run all the lights and everything inside this warehouse. And everything hit an all-time low one night.
The flood came.
Yeah, it was actually one of our nights off, and everyone had been out partying and stuff, and a little hose broke on the toilet upstairs, and the water started basically pouring out of the wall right over, and this toilet was right above Renee's room. So she woke up in the middle of the night with a flood of water pouring down her walls and crashing down on her bed. So we had complete pandemonium trying to get this thing shut off. By the time we got the water shut off, there was about 3 or 4 inches of standing water in the entire warehouse. And within the standing water were all these power boxes and everything linked up to this tie-in. So basically, we were in a situation where we pretty much figured at any point in time we were going to get a little jolt of electricity and everybody would have been dead.
Explain, the Holler tie-in is something that allows you to bypass essentially the fuse box. So essentially you get pure...
unfettered power.
Unfettered power right from the lines.
So,
and we'd always been told, like, basically, we just heard all these fucking tales about how with Hollywood tie-ins, essentially, like, these people being blown through walls and stuff like that, and then just, like, don't fuck with the tie-in.
Right.
So, of course, waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we had a problem with the guy who put in the tie-in. Didn't we fuck him around somehow or something?
Well, no, he just came. He didn't even work. He just came as a favor for someone to hook the thing up because nobody else would do it. The damn thing. They were too afraid to do it. So he was one guy who knew how to do it, and he came by for like an hour and did it. So now it's 3 a.m, and we got to get this thing shut off. And nobody knew how to reach this guy or anyone else who could do it. And eventually, I don't remember who we ended up talking to.
We ended up getting the guy on the phone at 3 a.m.
Yeah. So I'm like still half drunk and standing in this puddle of water, and this guy was giving me instructions.
And I'm standing there with a board.
That's right, ready to knock me off if the thing.
Because that's apparently what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. So I'm on the phone with this guy with all these huge rubber like hoses sticking out of this fuse box, all those different colors, and he was on the portable phone with me, and it was like right out of one of those bomb diffusing movies. He'd be like, "Take the red hose. Twist."
No, the green.
Exactly, just like that. And we would pull them off one at a time, and it took about a half hour to do the whole thing. And it was probably one of the worst experiences of my entire life. But needless to say, nobody died, so I suppose it turned out all right. But that was one of the low points, because in addition to it being a major drag, it also flooded the whole set. Luckily, none of the camera equipment or anything got destroyed, but everything was soaking wet. The set was...
It was never the same.
No, it was totally screwed up, so it sucked pretty badly. Fortunately, some of the crew were good enough to come and help on the day off and help dry everything up and clean it up, but it's still...
I think, didn't we go to a movie and they did it for us?
Yeah, because we'd been up half the night.
Yeah, actually it was funny. Lisa Cohen, actually, once again, one of the queens of production, organized a bunch of people to come to clean the warehouse that we went to see a movie.
And they shop vac out all the excess water and everything like that. Oh, don't you want to bitch about this scene?
Matt! This is Matt's scene!
Oh, we fought like cats and dogs on this day. Basically, because everything had been so desperately boring in terms of camera movement and stuff, as we were going through the woods, and it's so long following these people, we're trying to think of something that would be a little more interesting, where you can still get everyone in master shots. So there was a couple of scenes on this day where we tried something a little different. In this one, we had like 3 setups, and because it was a long, slow pan in, and the sound was so bad, we kept having to cut, because there'd be like dogs barking in the background or kids screaming and stuff like that. And then we get little camera bumps and everything. So we had to do like 7 or 8 takes of this, and it was just murdering us on time and on film stock. And so Malcolm and I were fighting like cats and dogs about the whole thing. The irony of the whole thing, of course, is that the scene that it was supposed to tie to, because it was a very important scene in the script, ended up getting cut out. So the whole thing was kind of a waste of time in film in that regard. But I still stand by the shot.
Matt's scene.
And it was referred to from that point on as Matt's scene.
Oh, Martin is so upset. What's going on? Where have they taken us?
So Martin is supposed to know here, know that Jason is lying, because he knows his family from Toronto and knows that he doesn't have an uncle who, would have a cabin out here, and he's starting to figure things out. So there was a whole scene where he confronts him after that, but we had to cut it.
Jason Mewes and Carmen Lee really drunk in this scene. Carmen Lee Welland.
And this was just Mewes being basically told he could.
And this is where it follows a scene where Matt kept yelling at me about this, because I kept running. I kept wanting to do other takes of Mewes. He was kind of in fine form, and I just kept wanting to run on him and doing this stuff, and just basically taunt Martin. This wasn't scripted at all. This was just Mewes was instructed to just piss off Martin.
Cock and balls.
But that was a pretty common source of arguments. So the arguments are pretty much about film stock, time, and money. And it's like every day you're going to have those kind of arguments in this situation. And usually it turned out that I was right, and of course Malcolm was wrong.
Very untrue.
Night moves.
It was nice of Bob Seger to give us a
Bob
rights
Seger was very, very good to us on this one.
Well, he's an old drinking buddy.
A lot of Bob Seger references in this film.
This is our shameful owl scene.
Yeah.
But it's pretty.
You wrote this, didn't you?
Yep. It's supposed to be sickly.
This is actually it's too bad about the framing this shot. I wish we'd been able to frame it a little lower so you could see they're actually sitting on a log. There's actually raw water running underneath them as well. It was a beautiful little location of running creek water.
I'm hypnotized by the owl scene.
Yes, well, it's hard not to be, and I'm sure let's just sit for a moment and take in the the wonderful words of Matt Gissing.
Well, it might be a good time to actually talk about the soundtrack.
No.
Just
take in your words.
All right, enough of that. The soundtrack is pretty much comprised of independent bands from the Vancouver area. I think there's a couple of strays from other areas in Toronto and Montreal. But I mean, it's mostly Canadian independent stuff at any rate. And the bands turned out to be pretty cool about.
Nobody gave us a hard time. Everybody gave us their music. That's a stunt guy up there. This scene actually. That's Deja Voodoo playing again. This scene actually ends when you see Jason fall with a stunt guy who actually literally fell about 30 feet.
Yeah, onto a pile of boxes and a kind of like a.
It was right out of Jackass. It was.
Yeah, and we had to do 3 different takes of it.
And he almost mixed the box.
And he landed right on the corner on one of them and almost killed himself. So,
but it was great because this was the day that Scott Mosier's parents were visiting, so they got to make it. It looked like it was a big movie.
Yeah, it all looked very impressive.
Big stunts.
Unfortunately, the stuntman's work was all for naught because it looked way too devastating. It looked like Mewes would have been dead, so it got cut.
You said the cabin was a day away, right? We'll get you there, Az. Don't worry, okay?
And this is Brian doing a great job on handheld in this scene.
Yes, this was shot two ways actually. We shot it once, just straight on in a master where it was just the camera was still, and Brian said, "No, please, let me do another one. It's not going to work." I mean, and he wanted to do a very kind of a lot more urgent, and it certainly works a lot better.
Yeah, he was bang on right about this, and I managed to pick up, I think, all the important, reactions and things.
And I think this was one take, wasn't it?
Yep. We did one master, and then we did the one handheld, and that was it. And
Brian just did it. Brian was a total hero. This was the first scene, wasn't it? This was the first thing we shot in the entire film.
I remember his first day.
Yeah, it was we shot this. Well, the car drive-bys, and then we came and shot. This is the first with actors.
Right.
Was the first thing, and this is actually based on this is based on reality. Actually, the idea for the movie actually came from I lived in Vancouver and collected welfare. It was the kind of thing to do in the grungy early '90s with all those wacky bands in Seattle and West Coast and blah blah blah. And when we were writing the script, kind of Matt would ask me like, well, what did you do for money? And I would tell him. And he ended up, he threw this in here.
Pretty much verbatim from a story Malcolm told me about him, and I believe it was Martin. Right?
Yeah, where me and Martin actually did go, and we did sell hot dogs, and we did make condiment sandwiches. Because that extra $3 from a hot dog would buy you a beer.
So basically, any contempt or disgust you're feeling for these characters, you should pretty much also direct at Malcolm and Martin, because they are these characters.
Oh, they have. This is just a scene that we just thought was it's just like... This is a fella scene that we thought we'd just pop in anywhere and just have them, eating. And they just did their own thing, and that's them. The whimsical...
Oh, this love story just won't die.
I think it's funny because one of the problems of the film, I think, is that Jason... I mean... All of the actors were really fantastic, but it really is Jason Lee's movie, and he really did a fantastic job with his characters. So, kind of like the little moments we spend apart with these people, and it's intentionally kind of. I mean, it's supposed to be kind of grating, but it's. But essentially, I mean, this stuff really kind of. It's not exact. I mean, it's. When we started filming, we saw that Jason Lee was taking over. I mean, the stuff that, yeah.
Well, the idea was, I think the idea was that, you want to have this character who's going mad, but because these people are also horribly self-occupied, they fail to notice it, and they're still caught up in these like menial and irrelevant little things and these, little arguments that they're having and stuff like that. So. It was good to be able to go away to this stuff, but I guess, because the film became, I think, darker than we anticipated because Jason took Donner to this place, it's almost like after a while you're kind of like, oh my God, because you're back with these people again and you've got this menacing, maniac wandering around looking for Bigfoot. But I do think this is tremendously cute. Look at that little thing in his hair. It's hilarious. This is just one of the few moments where I regret that it's black and white.
I just hate that mentality.
What? Because you can't tell that he's got makeup?
No, I think the scene would have looked really beautiful.
I like the way it's framed. I love the framing of this scene. I think just they're just completely surrounded by brush.
But overall, I am very happy that we did the film in black and white. Though I think it did a lot to.
It's a lot more ominous
for the mood of the movie. Yeah, I think it, and also for the scale and budget and everything else is sort of appropriate.
The funny thing is that we were initially. Kevin insisted we did it on black and white, and our argument was, comedy, comedies don't really work in black and white, and of course, unfortunately, he had done Clerks. Look at that scratch. He had done Clerks. You can't really argue. It's just like, oh no, comedy doesn't work in black and white. Well, Look at my little movie. So he won the argument. But it certainly worked a lot better.
And as Daddy Warbucks, he tended to win a lot of arguments.
Still warm.
Meow.
Well, I don't mean it like that, but it's just like, that's, the executive producer who, he got involved in the film. He had opinions, and, we had a lot of fights about different things and stuff. But, I mean, he was hands-on, and he was involved, and he was passionate about the movie. So
that's one thing I have to say. I mean, he didn't just give us the money and take off. And they were very, Kevin and Scott totally took an interest in this film. And they were, I mean, it was the most incredible version of film school anybody could go through. I mean, they were, they'd done it. They kind of knew what was going on. The infamous baby scene. Where the man that we're giving all these prompts to, Scott Mosier, is about to make a brilliant cameo appearance. This was, it's funny because this scene actually came up. Me and Matt were like, we're writing the script, and we're like, well, okay, they're going through the woods, and they find something. What do they see? And Matt just said babies. Actually, that's how kind of a lot of the stuff would work. Like, we just throw something out, and Matt would say, Matt would throw something out, and he'd go, no, that's ridiculous. And then I'd say, no, wait a minute, we can make that work. And this was one that I think kind of worked beautifully. It's Scott Mosier.
And it was meant to be kind of a melding of the whole Iron Man, drum beating, tree hugging thing with all the, diaper baby fetish people out there. We kind of thought, well, let's take those two things and mix them together and have these fetishists out in the woods hugging trees.
It's David Keeps, who at the time was working for Details on the far left. The far right is Bob Miller, who now is standing beside Scott Mosier, who I hate. And there's John Knowles, the mascot, in the middle.
And a couple other fellows that were good enough to come out and stand around in a diaper all afternoon and get horribly sunburned.
And this basically Braveheart was out this summer that we made this film. And we kind of stole the charge from, well, we didn't steal it. We were influenced by Braveheart.
Baby Heart.
I love that line delivery. We will not be subdued. There's the Braveheart. The charge.
Now, needless to say, conveniently, the babies just disappear as quickly as they appeared, and we move on with the story.
Oh, whatever story. Really. There never really was much of a story.
And here we are. This is back at that Capilano Park where we had all the tourists and kids and stuff, and this was a whopping scene. Yeah. So it was hell to shoot this, but
it was 9 pages, and we got it in a day, and it was a very hand slapping day. We were very happy to be, to get through a big chunk. And we actually shot in 2 setups. We did very minimal coverage. We kind of came in later, and actually. How many we did coverage on? You'll see yourself for the coverage. It was very minimal.
Yeah, but I mean, again, because it's been so cut down for the movie, but it was literally 9 pages when it was shot initially, so it had to be broken up, even for the actors to get through it, because we were doing it in 3 and 4 page chunks instead of a 9-page run.
And this was the first scene that we actually cut of the movie. And I think it's one of the most powerful scenes in the movie. And at this point, I think we thought we were both geniuses and that we were going to have a brilliant career. And
what did we know?
Dragging our asses across BC, and now you decide to tell us there's no fucking cat.
I wish there was a little more swearing in the movie. That's
one
of my
only regrets. We kind of I think we beat Kevin with the swearing in his films. One thing, when we actually. In editing this film, we shot in Vancouver, but we actually edited it in New Jersey. Kevin was good enough to. We actually took over Scott Mosier's office, unbeknownst to him. He was kind of surprised for us to show up and, set up an Avid in his office. Not an Avid, sorry. Steinbeck. An Avid would have been nice. But we lived in New Jersey, and Kevin at the time was living in a townhouse with Joey. And Scott Mosier, and at the time, a fellow, the quote-unquote indie filmmaker's friend.
You'd be talking about Bob Hoff.
Something I'll dispute, but most will call him the filmmaker's friend, indie filmmaker's friend, and he happened to be living with us. So it was we essentially in the family room there was a pull-out couch, which Bob Hawk of course commandeered, and then we slept behind the couch.
On the floor.
On the
That's right.
floor. And it's funny because we had a screening of this movie. We were kind of fighting to try and submit it to Sundance, and we stayed up for 30 hours to basically get an assembly together to show to Bob Hawke, because that was kind of the way it was, to see if we would submit to Sundance or not. And so we were up for 30 hours, and Matt had a family emergency. He had to go rushing home. And essentially, we had to show the film to Bob Hawke to meet the Sundance deadline. So Matt fortunately got to leave before we had the tete-a-tete with Bob Hawke. But not before. I mean, it was so funny because we were showing it on the Steenbeck, and we had to change reels. And after the first reel, he just let out the biggest guttural, like, ugh! It's like, how much is left? And it was the most painful, awful watching experience ever. I hope your watching experience is going better than that. Because it was just a horrible, horrible experience, and Bob Hawke was absolutely vicious about the film.
Not a lot of constructive criticism.
No, it was all basically his criticism was like, bury this film, it'll ruin people's careers. He was very, very nasty. And after that, I moved out to the garage. It was the middle of winter, and I slept in Kevin's unheated garage with a kitty litter. And the cat had a little cat door that he would come in, and it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning, and you just hear that door go,
scratch.
and you knew in 30 seconds the whole garage would be just full of cat shit. But cat shit and freezing cold was better than being in the same room as Bob Hawke, so I have no problem with burning that bridge.
Oh, happy memories.
But, I mean, people have opinions. It would have been a lot... just in retrospect, it would have been a lot nicer if he was a little more constructive, but I think that he was just a pompous windbag who just essentially took great pleasure in completely cutting down work that people worked hard for. I'm certainly not declaring it a masterpiece or anything like that, but it was, a lot of blood and sweat went into this movie. A lot of effort. These actors really gave, I think that we were truly saved by their performances. Not saved, but I think a lot of people put a lot of work into this. And not only for us, we're talking about 30 people who put their own time into this. And it was just a very insensitive experience to have to go through. And it actually kind of killed the rest of the experience of the film. We went to film festivals, and at times where I think we really should have been enjoying it. I think, personally, I don't know how Matt was, but I was just so beaten down by that experience that it kind of ruined the rest of the experience.
Well, it's a hell of a grind for one reason or another. By the time you actually get to a point like film festivals, you would hope it's going to be the highlight and so exciting and that. But yeah, you're so exhausted and drained from the film that it is difficult to get the maximum back from it.
But one thing, Kevin, Kevin actually was warned by Bob, I think, to not release it. And Kevin really stood behind this film 100%. And I think that, he's a big fan of it. And he's always been very, very, very generous with his praise for this film.
We're better off without it. Well, this place is right off. We better get moving in the morning.
Which was a real blessing, given that obviously post-production in New Jersey went on for some time after that to go from that rough cut to getting the thing actually finished.
And we would have been cutting this thing probably to this day if it wasn't that we had to clear out because they were starting pre-production on Chasing Amy. So that was our deadline. It's like the editing was going really slowly, and finally it was just like we had to get it out of there because they're doing Chasing Amy. We finished sometime in March. I think it was March, wasn't it?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And then we came back to Toronto to do the sound mix, negative cut, and all the rest of the post-production, which was a whole other debacle.
And then we got into the Vancouver Film Festival after that, thanks to John DuPont, who was the programmer there, and gave us a really great slot. We played in the Ridge, and all the cast. That was actually really, it was a great time. Actually, we had, me and Matt went for the whole film festival, much to the chagrin of the Vancouver Film Festival. And they would, some people loved us, but there's one journalist. He was the what?
Wasn't he the media? He ran the press room?
He was the guy who ran the press room, essentially. Ian Cadell. He worked for the Georgia Straight.
Which is a weekly paper.
In
in Vancouver.
Essentially, I mean, things didn't start off very well because me and Matt kind of got off a plane and went right to this interview with what was his name? We were going off to do an interview, and this interviewer went around and Nardwar and asked a bunch of people's responses to the film, and all of a sudden he came on. It's just like and what did he say? He said something that wasn't really that offensive, but I mean, he didn't say something like he just said something that kind of it irked me. Maybe I was being a little sensitive, but I just don't think that anybody from the film festival should be saying anything but really positive things about their own, especially the press director.
So you took him to task.
So I took him to task, and I came. He was one of the first people I saw when he arrived at the festival office. And what did I call him? I said, "You fucking asshole" or something.
Something that
really loud in the hallway, and I'm a bit of a blowhard. If I didn't even know me, I tend to tend to get myself in trouble. And essentially, this man has taken great pleasure in. I think we're banned from the Vancouver Film Festival and all kinds of nasty stuff and. Every opportunity he gets. I mean, I've heard through the grapevine him saying all kinds of nasty things about myself and Matt. Yeah, I'm a better guy, so what?
Another day or two. Hopefully we can get him out.
That was awesome. So where are we here? Oh yeah, Stoner's finding some Bigfoot droppings.
Yes.
And there's that OTHS basketball shirt again.
It's one thing. It's funny a thing about this. I mean, you'll notice. We were warned not to use whites and things like that, but one kind of thing tonally that we wanted to do is like these people would not only not be affected by their environment mentally, but just like they were just completely going through this experience untouched by everything. And we wanted to have, it wasn't lazy costuming. It was like we just wanted to have these people completely untouched by kind of what's going on.
Which is why Martin is so pristine and shiny white and clean at this point in time.
I know.
I think that's something. I mean, we made some choices with this movie like that, which have
we got shit on for.
Yeah, it definitely helped to polarize the audience of the film. And I think when we started making this film, we said to ourselves that it certainly isn't for everybody, and a lot of people are probably going to just either not get it or not like it because of the technical deficiencies or just because the characters are grating or whatever it might be. But we were okay with that. We wanted to sort of capture certain people in a time and a place, and I think we did a pretty good job of that personally. And it accomplished what we wanted to accomplish in terms of telling the story. So it's been interesting though, when we went to some of the film festivals, for example, in Vancouver, we get the response from some of the people who live in Vancouver and very much live this lifestyle, and they're the people that the film's modeled on, and they'll come up to you and say, like, man, nobody lives like that, or what's this based on? And you have to kind of chuckle to yourself because,
Well, the movie has its definite fans. I mean, the one thing about us when we obviously didn't really rush to throw this movie out there. It was a profound personal kind of story, and it wasn't for a lack of people kind of being interested to show it. I think that we I don't know, it was just it's like your child that you're afraid how, to put it out in the world, how it's going to be received. Especially, it totally is it's very much about alienation. I think something both myself and Matt kind of feel. It's been a central focus of the two films that we've done. And it's very hard to put it out, but I think one of the things that influenced me in putting it out is that when we were at the Vancouver Film Festival, we had a screening of the film. And after the screening, this girl came up to us. Matt, I'll let you tell this.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And she was probably about 18 or 19 years old, and we were standing with a couple of the cast members having a cigarette outside the theater, and she was just completely nervous, like trembling, and she was standing just to our side waiting to talk to us. So we stopped and we're like, hi, what's up? And she mustered up pretty much, I think, every ounce of courage she had to just sort of say that she liked the film and she really thought that we did a good job of writing female characters, and that she hadn't seen characters like this in a film before. And that was pretty much all she said. Then she turned and basically ran.
Well, she was basically saying she related to the film, and it was just obvious this was a person who never would have, she wasn't looking to talk to directors or anything. She just I think the film touched her, and I think she just wanted to thank us for it. And it was just very touching. I mean, that was better than any kind of standing ovation we could have got.
Oh yeah, that was phenomenal. And obviously we both remember that as one of the highlights of the whole experience.
And it's funny because this movie plays really 90-10, man. 90% of people just don't get it, and there's the 10% who do that kind of make it worthwhile. I mean,
well, I think in fairness to that 90%, some of them probably get it, just don't like it.
No, I mean, you know, I have no, I'm a very harsh critic of films myself, and so I certainly can't. I'm not going to begrudge somebody for not liking the film. I think that you have to give it a fair shake, and you have to appreciate kind of. We actually went for something. We just didn't make a. You know, we just didn't make a fucking. A goofy asinine film of with like about gangsters and. Which seemed to be the popular thing at the time, or. I'm trying to watch what I say here because I'm not offend anybody. Essentially, I didn't make, I think we really we were ambitious with our first effort. We really had something to say. Whether people picked up on it or not, or whether we succeeded entirely is totally up to you, the viewer. But it's something I think that both myself and Matt are very proud of in the end. I mean, it was very hard to watch this movie for a very long time. And I think now watching it, I feel nothing but fondness towards it. And I just think the cast did such a fantastic job, and I think that I think everybody involved just did such a this is a film totally it was run on the power of the heart. I mean, people really put their heart into this film, and I think it shows, and that's why it's hard to kind of throw it out there to the masses because it's just like this. It was never meant to be this kind of big blockbuster. It was never meant to have a huge release. It's just a very small movie. I mean, we didn't spend a lot of money on it, so I mean, we weren't kind of selfish in making our little movie on like millions of dollars. I think that the budget we had was fair, and I think that we did the best we can with it, especially with a lot of help from people. And I think it's a very it's as I say again, it's a very personal film, and it's hard to kind of throw something like this out there. Unfortunately, now with the careers of a lot of the players in it, now there's a kind of a real demand for people to see it, and so we're kind of forced to put it out there, and hopefully, it's funny because my interest in this film being released, it's not really in. I don't want to. I'm not interested in having millions of people see it or like that. I just hope that it finds, I guess, a small audience.
A core audience.
A core audience of people who just kind of get it, who just that whole kind of '90s, I guess, over just angst. It was a very difficult time. It's a weird part of growing up, and we were lucky enough to have the opportunity to make a movie about the way we were feeling at the time, and I think that's what this is. It's a document for how we were feeling.
And to have these people bring it to life. I mean, I watched this scene. It's like I don't know. I think these two are incredible in this scene.
Yeah.
We missed our opportunity through all that to talk about the bee sting in that last scene with Jason. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, we talked about it last time. But this is a horribly poignant scene to watch. I mean, it's funny. I think myself and Matt see kind of parts of ourselves in both these characters, and it's like one half of ourselves saying goodbye to this other part of ourselves, and just kind of I don't mean to be speaking for you, but
but we're not nearly as good looking as these two.
No, well But that's the good part.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about employing actors to speak for you, because they're always better looking than you are.
That's a sad bit of business. And it's funny. I think that we, every character. I think every character except for Az, pretty much, you get a. We really wanted to get a sense of you saying kind of every character had their moment and they kind of fade off. And, Martin just had his moment and he kind of fades off out of the movie.
Quite literally fades out of the movie in one of the cuts here.
And then kind of Renee has her moment, and then, she kind of fades off, runs into Carmen, and then Carmen has her moment and they fade out. I mean, Mewes is the only character who just doesn't really get that. He's kind of, he's the.
Well, he does. Relief. He gets it when he looks back. I mean, when Carmen's taking him away, and Az looks back at Donna with that wounded duck look.
But here, I mean, it's the annoying people say, like, "Where's Martin?" But no, I mean it's all about kind of like, you know, that these people are fading off. As they fade off is kind of an importance to Jason Lee. Is where it's kind of like here we go. That was a nice little cut, wasn't it?
And we're back at the same warehouse.
Pierre Blais. There's Barry and there's Pierre Blais.
This the same warehouse again. We pulled everything out of there. Had a graffiti artist come in and do the wall and everything. For this was like shot right at the end.
This was the last scene we shot right here.
I got a job at a pet store.
Which is actually kind of odd because it's kind of rare to shoot the final scene in a movie as your final scene in a movie. So it worked out.
And the
nice.
real last scene was we shot last as well.
That's right. Yeah. The postscript.
But this was the last in the main unit.
I think a change of scenery might be.
And after this, it's funny because we finished shooting this scene and then we basically had the rap party right this in the exact same location. It was a lovely little
I'm trying
time.
to remember how many shoot. I think we had about 17. Was it 17 days of shooting?
No, I think we had 21, didn't we?
Was it?
Uh-huh.
I thought it was 3 weeks, but I didn't think we had.
No, I think we had 21 days.
Wow.
We shot. We had
were
no
lucky
days
in that
off.
regard.
We had 3 weeks, and then we only took. We started on like a Tuesday, and we ended on like a Saturday. We took like 2 days off or something.
I guess that's it. We had more days than film.
And there's something very weird about this scene where people for some reason think that she just did heroin.
Right, with her because her arms like down straight out.
No, this is.
But that wasn't the intention.
No. This song is beautiful. Knock Down Ginger by Vancouver Band. I think it kind of sums it up perfectly. She's sad. And coming up here is awesome. We thought we were inserting a piece of black. We were actually putting... That's a guy's hand going over...
When they were changing...
And so when they cut the neck, instead of putting black filler, they actually put the scene of the guy.
That's just the kind of professionals that we are.
Yes. Please, give us a call. Hire us for your weddings. Bar mitzvahs, we'll film them.
Births, you name it, we're there.
This was the coldest day the world has ever seen. Truthfully, just the fucking coldest day. And Jason Lee, hero that he was, had to wear this little fucking shirt in the middle of nowhere, and he just must have been dying.
Well, that's why you can see he's got a black t-shirt on underneath that. It's the only layer we could actually offer him to at least try and keep him warm. And I guess this is the scene that spawns the debate in terms of what is the outcome for Jason Lee's character Donner.
Where we both have, me and Matt both actually have completely different views on what happens here. Matt, your view is?
Well, I don't know if they're completely different. I'm actually relatively ambiguous. I haven't really settled on it. I think he may be dead.
I think he's dead.
In Bigfoot-related nirvana.
My opinion is he's dead, and this is just some kind of, maybe this is the last fever dream he has before he dies, is what we're catching here.
I would prefer to think that he actually found Bigfoot and he's just happy out in the woods.
Fucking optimist.
And we had to come back and shoot this a couple of months later.
And the best thing about that was because that was the only time that we actually